The following is a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. The subject is the emotional aspect of the knees chakra in Scorpio and is dated 19th of November 2020. Me. What I experienced today in the pyramid was very intense. Like every day, I greet all the guards, I speak for a moment with the camel drivers, I say good morning to the inspector and guard at the entrance of the pyramid. I go up, I introduce myself in front of the camera and, like cats, I walk looking for the place where the energy calls me to place myself. Today there were 2 of the women who came on the October trip with me and 2 Canadian guys. As always, I don't say anything to anyone and I sit trying not to make anyone uncomfortable. If the energy requires it, I wait in silence or begin to tune in with chants and breaths. When the configuration was formed, I felt the presence of the creative energy, a very intense feminine and masculine presence, and I recognized the male. It was the one energy belonging to Ptah, one of the Egyptian divinities related to the creation of the universe. In Atlantean times we called it Eptul-Ha, and its name referred to the tree of life. Feeling him, I knew that in my imagination I had to open an invisible door that would take me to observe the codes that were there in the interdimensionality. And then I saw the webs, the matrix, and the presence of Manik, the weaver spider of the cosmos. Ptah positioned himself in front of me and said, "Let's go to the beginning." And at that moment the electricity went out and we were left in complete darkness, as if we were floating in the universe. Their female and male voices were interspersed to show the aspects of the creator and the creator. I could see in the dark all the connections, a huge network. They showed the manifestation of existence itself, the framework, and how each string was united in the hearts of all living beings. Manik knitted incessantly, and then I saw something I hadn't seen for years, the shift channel. I am the interdimensional corridor. Me. I remember that the first time I remembered it was when I was 14 or 15 years old, a kind of infinite corridor, which appeared to be straight but was actually spiraling, like a roller that crossed the entire universe, twisting on itself, like the chains of DNA now that I think about it. And from there, all realities, all worlds and dimensions could be accessed. There was his guardian, an entity that inhabited every corner. He opened doors for me. When it was just you. I am. I, gone. The guard showed me the doors, short ways to get everywhere. Me. In lattice, it was fantastic, like a harp in the shape of a spiral, with all its strings going in all directions, creating a beautiful web. Each being was connected to Shif, and his heartbeat echoed in the corridor like an indefinite and infinite song. Today I entered Shif again, and many beings spoke through its branches, its portals. He said, "The doors are opening, because each one of you is a door." What I noticed is that the Kundalini is like that shift channel, like a spiral that connects everything and whose levels are disconnected due to incoherence, due to the inability to maintain a flow of connection between the parts of our being. But as we work on coherence every day, more and more, it is as if the parts were coming together. The image I see is as if many cranes were taking the cylinders from a giant conduit and they were lining them all up like parts of a telescope. And by the time they're all in position, we'll be able to see the other side perfectly. I am, and so the doors will open. Me, I could see them. It was all very big, infinite, impressive, gears that were aligned to each other, and through the interior we could see the light from the center. What we used to see by flash could be seen perfectly from the place where each one was found. I am. The question would be if they will be willing to go through the gates. Me, because? I am. The fear of what is on the other side. Every living being clings to what he knows, because the fear of the unknown produces insecurity, doubt, and makes one return to the usual, falling into the same clutches of the subconscious over and over again. Bad acquaintance. The light of consciousness can blind many who have been used to living in the shadows. Your eyes can't adapt that fast. They need time. Me, like when we wake up, if we have the curtains tightly closed like our eyes, someone suddenly opening the curtains with a mid-morning sun above can burn our retina. I am, and the only thing you will see like this are colored lights with unreal flashes, preventing you from seeing the truth. Delusions. This falls in love with some, and they get lost in those illusions, while others cling to the shadows, closing the curtains again. They need time to adapt, step by step. Me, and that's fine, everyone has their own rhythm, you can't force anyone. I am, unless they have decided to be in service, and yes, it becomes a duty. Me, service from the heart. As I said yesterday, it cannot be forced. I am, but it must be fulfilled responsibly. Obligate comes from the Latin obligare, that is, to be bound, linked, tied against another. Responsibility comes from the Latin to have the ability to respond. Responsibility invites us to take action based on what we know and have. Service comes from the Indo-European serv, which means protect. Proteg, to put a roof on something, to cover it. And there are two ways that people are in service. The first is in the service of their survival, and the second is in the service of transcendence. Me, what would the survival service be? I am. Service to survival is what you know by the word attachment. In the world of consciousness and spirituality, the concept of being attached to things refers to having a lot of esteem, affection, appreciation for something, coming to consider the fact of leaving or abandoning it or letting it go unthinkable. Thus, the idea of detachment is fundamental, letting things go, not clinging to anything. But most of the time, in the human spiritual world, detachment is confused with abandonment. To abandon is to leave a side, to go to another side, to the other band, since the concept of abandoning comes from changing discourse, from the Indo-European ba, which means to speak. Thus, today the concept of detachment is confused with the change of discourse in which the person, instead of taking responsibility for what he had become attached to, decides simply to let it drift, denying it, abandoning it. Detachment is seen as the idea of getting rid of all emotional and material ties in order to feel liberated. And the truth is that someone without awareness of the links is pure air with an inability to manifest. Now we go to the origin of the word apego, which hasn't been translated but means attachment. It comes from the Indo-European pe, which means milk or milk fat, and which gave rise to the Latin pix, a substance that gives rise to the word black fish, not the aquatic animal, but a thick, oily, greasy secretion, also known as tar. It is used to smear the inside of drinking boots. Me. In other words, attachment would mean that something is stuck with tar, that it is greasy. I am. In the old concept, fat was not a negative thing, nor was black fish, or tar in English. Something greasy, someone obese, reflected wealth, fertility, stability, security, nutrition, beauty. Something greasy implied the ability to retain, to accumulate wealth and food, to generate security under a roof, which is to protect. Attachment refers to protection, survival security, being in the comfort zone, comfortable, healthy, cared for by someone. Attachment, then, remembers what makes us feel alive, calm, what makes us survive, clinging to life as the only way of escape, to permanence. In English, attachment comes from the Indo-European word steg, which refers to stake, a stick where things are affirmed, where security and stability are clung to and manifested. I ask you. Me, no. At least if your goal is life and survival as a biological and cultural organism. I am. Exactly. We cannot judge the attachment of things because it implies looking for stability and security, and every human, animal, does this. Try to find a calm point where things can be predictable and routine, where you find comfort. Me, attachment, seen as something negative, is almost to deny how much this concept has done for us, protect us from all external evil, and prevent internal strength from being lost. We can say that the muscle and skin tissue systems contain the fluids, the humors, inside our bodies, making them waterproof. And also, the same tissues protect us from what is outside: poisons, liquids, viruses and bacteria, threats. This translates culturally to the security of the interior of a house, of a family, of the people who make us feel safe, and the objects that give us stability. I am. The only major conflict here is the reliance on said security and the belief that it is the only way or path. Me. This is why it is related to the service of survival, because it is dedicated to protecting life. And what would be then the second way of the service of transcendence? I am. Here we will also find an interesting etymological root that will help you understand it. The same word pay, which in Latin you will say pix or picis, which gives rise to attachment ad picare, is the root of the word pituita, sticky mucus, which gives rise to the name of the gland hypophysis, in Latin pituitary. Me, the crown gland. I heard long ago that the Romans believed that this gland was what created nasal mucus. That's why I don't like to call it the pituitary gland, because it seems disrespectful to the gland of spiritual vision and consciousness. His name is hypophysis, meaning in Greek below growth, that is, development. I am. This gland allows us to open the eyes of the cosmos, to see beyond the physis of the forms, of what we know, and understand what lies behind. No longer what glues things together with pitch, but what connects things, the network. Here you find the concept of detachment. Detachment is the service of transcendence, where you stop thinking about protecting life and start thinking about protecting existence. Existence encompasses much more, outside of a simple human life. It goes to the connection between all beings through time and space, without limits. Detachment does not imply leaving bonds and matter, but understanding that it is possible to leave them because you are part of everyone, and you are not tied to anyone, but connected to each one like a fabric. You do not belong to one, you are everything. Thus, the hypophysis allows you to see the unity in things, putting yourself at the service of what was, is, and will be, without the need to cling to what is. Detachment is waking up to see the role of life in existence more broadly, and you no longer depend on life, but you don't separate from it either. You don't abandon it, but you take care of it, protect it, encourage it to develop. Me. Detachment is not letting go, it is loving without limits, understanding your eternal capacity to transform. I am. Now think of all the things that hold you back, like standing on tar, dipping in pitch, the things you become attached to in life, the things you serve with the need to survive. What are the things that you fear to change and transform, and that you prefer to leave as they are to feel safe, even if you know that it is a false security? And then recognize, what have you been responsible for, what you claim to have detached yourself from? Are your detachments balanced or simply abandoning reactions? Be aware of both, for neither one nor the other will lead you to real freedom. Me, and where will I find it? I am, in the joy of enjoying things while they last, taking responsibility for them with love, and celebrating the moment they transform to continue their course of evolution and expansion. There you will find freedom, at the midpoint between attachment and detachment, in the love of consciousness.